Today our inspiration is an English painter named J.M.W. Turner. He was born 100 years before the Impressionists, but they have a lot in common. I'll show you. I love his compositions because I've always liked the abstract quality of them. They're very luminous and big shapes and color. And then it turns out that that's what he was interested in, color and light. And it was all even called sublime. The light is sublime. And I was intrigued because they look so modern for being 100 years before the Impressionists. Turner was a child prodigy. He entered the Royal Academy when he was only 14, and then he was apprenticed after Sir Joshua Reynolds, some big guy. His oils are luminous because, and I didn't know that he did watercolors. I just fell in love with his luminous oil paintings. But it turns out, and you'll see from this video that I want to show you, that he started off only doing watercolors, and he would paint them on location. And then that's why as he developed, he began to paint oils, sort of like he painted watercolors. He favored the water and sun in his compositions because he was more interested in nature, not so much the figure, mostly nature, the power of nature versus the fragility of man. He was an English abolitionist in London, and he exhibited his most famous painting. He exhibited at some kind of abolition society. It was called The Slave Trade. It's really beautiful. I'll show you a picture of that. The way I want to just mention a few things about how he was like the Impressionists. They both were interested in light and color, primarily. They were both interested in nature. They got all their inspiration from observing nature. But the difference was that even though he did his sketches, the watercolors in plein air, his oil paintings were all done from sketches, in black and white sketches, that he did on location, but he did all of his finished work in the studio. So I want to share this video that I found so interesting, and you get to see a lot of his early work.
Turner's watercolors made light and color the purpose of his work. You see all this in the stunning panorama of 16 Turner watercolors sent down to London this month on loan from the Whitworth Art Gallery in Manchester. Many have not been seen in the capital before. Turner often started his watercolors when a young man in the 1790s by washing the entire paper with a single hue. That single color set a unifying mood and supplied the lighting for the whole work. Suddenly, around 1812, Turner began to apply a single underlying color to his oils and abandoned those strong contrasts of light and dark which gave old master paintings their strength and force. Increasingly, a powerful single color, typically golden sunlight, diffused over a whole canvas. Sometimes two contrasting colors would be underwashed, seen here in the cathedral city at Regensburg and on the rugged Alps above Chamonix. And you see the unifying color effect too in this 1827 watercolor at Petworth, dramatically here in the same year in the color beginning at Tivoli, and in 1845 in the moody alpine pass of St. Gothard. Without the lesson of a controlling, underlying tone that watercolors taught, Turner's oils would have stayed 18th century in feeling and very documentary in flavor. Instead, the detail with which he started slowly vanished from his work down the decades. The color of the painting became its main purpose. Detail was suppressed, to allow the triumph of light. Watercolors first, the oils later. Without the discoveries in watercolor, Turner's oils would never have achieved the drama and modernity which no other art in Europe showed at the time, and makes Turner the abiding genius of his age.
I thought that was a wonderful introduction to Turner's work. And what I want to experiment with today is doing a very washy oil. So it's going to look like a watercolor, I hope. So I'm going to approach it that way. We're going to use the white canvas as the lightest color. And I want to show you that I'm only going to be using 4 colors. Burnt sienna and cobalt blue, which is pretty much what he was doing in that last painting that we saw that I liked so much. Is my inspiration for this painting. Was the last one called Moonlight over Lucerne, Lake Lucerne. Moonlight over Lake Lucerne, painted in 1841. And that is very washy, and it's basically blue and burnt sienna, a complementary color scheme. So let's try it, starting with, I'm going to draw it on the canvas, and then we're going to start with a blue wash. It said in the discussion that he covered his whole canvas with pretty much one color. So in this case, the dominant color is blue. So I already started drawing the main lines in, and I'm going to be using a lot of turpentine. Watch what happens if this doesn't look like. See if this looks kind of like watercolor. Just put a bunch of blue over everything like that. I'm using the side of the brush. This is still pretty much what they call it underpainting, but we can use some of this juicy texture. And then the water, it's a little more blue-green, I think. There's not much of a line, so we're going to be getting rid of this line. This is a whole different technique or approach than the thick brush strokes that you start putting on right away. As I said last session, that you might start off a painting like this just to get your big masses in, get your value relationships going, and then you can decide about thick paint toward the end once you know for sure what you want to do. And take a smaller brush. And down here we're going to put the burnt sienna, just like that. We're going to be lifting off some of this so we can use the white canvas as the lightest light. But that's generally what it is. This is much lighter than that. So remember I said in the composition thing that you want to organize your canvas in terms of big masses, and always think about large, medium, and small, and smaller, maybe smaller. So it's sort of like when we talk about the contrast and the values of being dark, medium, and light. So I want this to be really fast. Okay, so that's the basics of it. And then we'll go back and darken the water with the blue, because this is a little darker. Not that much darker, but somewhat darker. Well, probably too much. Probably too dark. But the sky is darker at the top, and it gets lighter as it comes down. So put that in. There you go. And this is really watery looking, isn't it? Ooh, yummy. Maybe just leave some of that. And I'm going to lift off down here where it's really light. So this is how we would start. We've already gotten rid of the outlining here. I'm going to kind of lift off here a little bit. Get rid of that. And then what else do we need? Maybe lighten this a little bit down here. lighter and lighter. And then there's a, down here I'm going to lift it. Here we go. This is good. I'm going to lift off the lightest light up here, maybe. Right here. I want to maybe lift off a little bit at the top of the water so it's not quite so hard edge. There you go. Water, sky. You can smooth it in with it if you want. I want to go dark to light, and then almost white, not quite. There we go. Okay. And then the darkest darks are the bushes. The bushes are actually darker than anything, so you can put all the colors in where you really want it dark. Like there's a bush here. That means that, well, probably could do that. It means that this water is probably a little dark. So let's lift it off. Lift off the water a little bit. There we go. Yeah, that's better. So now the water is darker than the sky, but you want the bushes to be darker than the water. So, and then down here is darker. Right in here. And you're going to have more time to put in the details. But this is just the way to start with it being very wet. This will be your wet on wet underpainting. Okay, thank you. Maybe we'll put a little bit of the green grass down here. I have just a little bit of yellow. Here we go. Put some of this in. There you go. And that has really got to be a nice, fast way to start a painting, don't you think? I think so. I love it. So your job, as I said before, is just to get the big masses in right away. Does that look like a Turner painting? Thank you. I would go back and fiddle with it for a while. But that's the idea. So it's about 7 minutes?
Oh, go ahead.
I'm adding a few little dark accents in here. But I want to keep it loose and fresh like this. So that's about it. I softened this edge a little bit. That's all. I just wanted to put a few accents in.